real freedom? You want real freedom? Freedom is never having to work for money again. But damn, yeah, no. You think I'm working right now? Like, does this look like work to you?
Nah. Welcome back to another episode of Wealth in Christ podcast, show where we inspire the masses to become financially free while building God's kingdom. On the podcast today, we have Mr. Dillard. Mr. Dillard is a serial entrepreneur, well known as a high-income sales coach. In addition, Mr. Dillard is known for helping life insurance grow their business into six-figure business. So thank you for being here, Mr. Dillard.
Man, I'm excited. Thank you for having me, man.
So my first question, who is Mr. Dillard?
First and foremost, I'm a child of God. I'm a believer. I'm a husband. I'm a father. Yeah. I'm excited. All of that.
That's really great. I'm really great. Thanks for being here. So I want to ask, how did you get started in this journey of entrepreneurship?
Oh my goodness. How much time do we have on here?
As much time.
It doesn't take a lot of time. Honestly, I know what type of answer most people are looking for when they ask me that question. Your question was, how did I get started? And the simple answer is with a decision, period. And I think a lot of people complicate the process of going from being an employee to being an entrepreneur because there's no decision that's ever made. I heard somebody once say that more clarity comes from action than thought. And so for me, I knew a long time ago that I probably wasn't fit to work as an employee. Like, I've always been rather rebellious. I was a rebellious kid. I was a rebellious teenager. I was rebellious as a young adult, right? And I just knew me and jobs wouldn't work. Neither one of my parents were really entrepreneurs. My mother, she had a sewing company in a local mall that's no longer here. She had a sewing company right here around the corner from where my office is as well a long time ago. But I did see her working very, very hard. I saw my father, he's worked for the IRS for the past 40 years. I saw him working extremely hard. And I think a lot of times when we make decisions to go in the opposite direction of what our parents are doing, it's for a couple of different reasons, but mainly we see the results of what they have. And so at the end of the day, I think the number one command that God ever gave us was to honor your father and your mother. And so I do, right? I love them to life. I would not be the man before you right now without their example, without their love, without their belief in me, without the standards of life that they had given me as a young man. But just like you, just like so many other people, all of our parents try to give us the rules for success, right? They give us these structural ways of being to give us a predictable result, which I found out they didn't even have. Right? They tell us to go to school, get great grades, right? Graduate from high school, which I did. Now, I want everybody to know I like being transparent, honest, open, and transparent, right? I graduated with a 1.7 GPA. So I want to tell everybody right now, no matter who you think I am, I'm probably just like many of you. Matter of fact, I'd venture to say that many of you were way better in school than I was. So again, they tell you to go to college, get great grades there, graduate, get your degree. I tried to do that. I graduated as a sophomore, which you're not laughing, but some people will get that on the way home. That means there's no degree involved with that at all. Ended up coming out of school and realized the 40-40-40 plan that they sold me does not work. What is that? I'm going to work 40 years for 40 hours a week and eventually retire. And hopefully I can survive on 40% of the income that was not working for my family before. And when I realized I wasn't working for them, that they were still working hard, that they were trying to create these incremental growth cycles in their jobs or their employment, I said, you know what, there has to be a better way. And that's when I got started in my journey of entrepreneurship.
Now, I like the fact you said journey. And one thing that stood out to me is that you say you made a decision to choose entrepreneurship. Yeah. And I want to ask, how can someone choose entrepreneurship? Because oftentimes you find out that people just land it by because something happened in life and this is what they had to go through. You know, they work in a family business, you know, they just, God gave them a vision, but you say, you decided, like you made a decision, this is what I'm going to do. It's going to work. It's going to work. So how did you go about coming to that decision, and how can people come up to that decision of choosing entrepreneurship?
Yeah, and I love this question, man, again, because it's all about the deciding factor. What I go over with a lot of my mentees and different events that I do is deciding is the number one thing that you're going to have to do in anything you do in life. Most of the time when people come to me, they come to me for mindset. They come to me for sales, but ultimately sales is mindset at the end of the day. And what I realize that most people, what they have not done, what leaves them at this door of indecision where they're stressed out, maybe a little depressed, maybe full of anxiety. They're worried about the ifs, ands, buts. They're worried about what could be, should be, might have been. They're in this really, really interesting area of an ebb and flow, and they're trying to figure it out, right? And you know what? I truly believe that 99% of every single, and I do mean to say every single thing that you're dealing with that may be looked at as a problem, that may be looked at as a challenge in your life, is only there, and I do mean to say only, because you haven't made a decision in that area. The only reason that some people are stressed out about their finances is because a decision was never made to become wealthy, to become well off, to become rich, if you will, or to become free in that area of their life. The reason why they may have some worry when it comes to their health is because you never decided to be healthy. And so for me, I realized that making a decision, there is no process to it. Like a decision happens instantaneous. And I think at some point or another, I was sold on the idea that I have to weigh the pros and cons, that, you know, let me figure out if I can make a decision on this thing. Or like most people do in a sales presentation, they say, well, let me think about it, right? And my rebuttal to that always is, perfect. What are you thinking about? Maybe we can do the process together, right? Like, what do you mean you got to think about something? Listen, your thought process brought you to the state where you're undesired right now. Think about that. In a sales presentation, when somebody tells you, hey, I want to think about it, they're looking to resolve something in their life. I used to be in the gym business a while ago, and people would come to me and they want to get in shape, whether it was guys wanting to be more fit, ladies looking to lose weight, whatever. And when they would tell me they wanted to think about it, I go, listen, and whenever you say something like this, you got to smile. You see how I'm smiling? So that way it's easier for them to digest, right? I would say, with all due respect, you've been thinking about it to this day. And the truth of the matter is, your thoughts have brought you to your current weight, to your current health. So if we continue thinking about it, just out of curiosity, what's going to change? Go ahead and sign here, right? Like, go ahead and sign here. So your question was like, what made me decide? Poverty, right? Lack, limitation, scarcity. You know what I mean? I feel like one of the hardest things for any class or sector of people to do is to come from the quote unquote middle class and create wealth. Like when you're ridiculously poor, like you have no choice but to go up. You still have to make a decision, but like there's nowhere else you can go, right? And everybody loves those stories, but I think being from the middle class where you're already in a comfortable state, that's something totally different. Now, what I deemed as comfortable is completely different from anybody else because I went to suburban schools, right? But my mom was still working 3 different jobs. I saw her get up every single morning at 4 a.m. to make it to a job by 7, to leave that job at 2 o'clock, to start another job at 3 o'clock, to leave that job, come home, make sure myself and my 2 sisters had dinner, then leave back out to clean daycares at night. And I said, wait a minute, it takes all of that for us to live like this? And it was really interesting because the school that I went to, I had friends that went to that school that lived in beautiful homes. I mean, $1,000,000 homes. And I like to say this, whenever God has something for your life, first he's going to expose you. And I really feel like at a young age, I always ended up in these areas where there was opulence and there was abundance because I needed to be exposed. I needed to be in the proper environment to start cultivating a belief that it was possible for me too.
No, that is definitely, well said. That's important, that not only you get exposed to these different things, but you see that you can do it yourself. And that leads me to ask, you say you start off with, graduate high school at 1.7 GPA. So how did you go from a 1.7 GPA to now having six-figure business and selling life insurance? Now you're this well-known speaker, so how did you go from that? What was that mindset that, the process that you had to go through to now be who you are now today?
Yeah, there's a book that I would encourage everybody to grab. The book is called Think and Grow Rich. And I love the title of the book. And I always like to share that I wish that they had actually titled it in a way where it read like, Think and Grow Rich, right? Like I think people would have got the point of the book so much faster if it said think in like exclamation and highlighted, but it is what it is. But this book is by Napoleon Hill, and it's been said that the average millionaire has read this book at least 16 times. So I had a chance to go through it. Now, I only read specific chapters, but in there it says desire. Desire is the starting point of all achievement. Now, I want to read the definition real quick. One of my mentors, a great friend of mine, he said there's two different types of people in the world. There's people that read the dictionary, and then there's people that don't. And the reason why I got so obsessed with the idea of really looking up the definition of words is when I understood the power of words, right? They say that life and death is in the power of the tongue. They said that in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God, which means the genesis to any situation in your life is going to start with a word. So what I had to understand is that at the end of the day, if I am lazy with my language, the only world that I can create is on a set of words that I'm unaware of. So that's when I became very religious in a sense about figuring out the definition of words. And what I want to read to you is that definition of desire, man. And if people are taking notes, I want you to take a note on this. This is very, very important. So if desire is the starting point of all achievement, it says that desire is defined as a strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen. Now watch this. What I love about these words are there's some synonyms to it. Impulse, preference. What I like to see is yearning, craving. Now check this out. There's a lot of people that want certain things in their life, but they have not cultivated a desire for it. What do I mean by that? The only way I could have gotten to where I am right now is not through a want, right? You don't get what you want out of life. You get what you picture. Well, why is that statement so important? Because one of the synonyms is craving. Craving is a powerful desire for something. Watch this. One of my favorite things in the entire world is cheesecake. Right? Like, listen, I love cheesecake. Listen, give me pineapple upside down cheesecake, Oreo cheesecake, tuxedo cheesecake, red velvet cheesecake, birthday cheesecake, cinnamon bud cheesecake. Don't matter, just give me some cheesecake. I love it. But I realized that the only way that I can have a craving for it is because I've experienced it before. So remember what I just said. I had already been exposed. Even though I was not living that life, I had been exposed, i.e., I had gotten a taste. I had gotten an appetizer of what life could look like. And so the desire for me to create the life that I'm living right now, it was instilled in me as a child. Listen, my grandmother, she lives in a part of Cleveland, Ohio. It's called Lakewood. Well, she used to live there, rest her soul. And I would go there and visit with her from the age of basically when did she move there? From about 6 to 16. And every time I would go visit her, I would have to drive through this neighborhood, and it was a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood, right? Everybody had a gate to their home, and they had long driveways that led out to their beautiful $1 million homes, and every single home was on the lake. So the back of their home showed them water, right? And my grandmother, she lived in a condominium on the 9th floor. So it was one of the most prestigious neighborhoods in Cleveland, right? And so every time I'm there, I'm experiencing abundance. Now, I didn't understand it back then. I know exactly what was happening now. My belief system was being imprinted. So unconsciously, I was getting used to abundance. So no matter what my life looked like at certain times, I still had a program that was downloaded in me to say, you know what? You're not going to stay here. You may be here right now, but this is uncomfortable for you. I heard one time that Floyd Mayweather, his accountant said that Floyd is one of the most difficult people to work with. Now, some people are going to ask why. And he said with a straight face, he said, there is not 1 year that goes by that he does not expect. Somebody say the word expect. That he does not expect to bring in $1 billion. Expect. Which means his comfort zone, he's uncomfortable if he brings in $1 million. He's uncomfortable if he brings in 100 million. Like his standard is $1 billion. Think about that.
Oh.
Right. Like we don't get what we want out of life. Matter of fact, we get what our standards are. And the only reason that our life may be stuck, the reason why we may have hit a ceiling is because we have not increased our standard. So even after I decided, my friend, well, there was still another level I had to go through. And usually to do that, most people avoid the very thing that is the only thing that will lead them to the new life. And that word is change. So I can keep going, but I'm gonna let you get your questions. I know you got a list of questions and everything, but yes, deciding.
I definitely appreciate that. So, you mentioned in this journey, entrepreneurship journey, the first thing was exposure. From exposure was now you have the desire, desire to this. So now from there, I want to understand, once you have this exposure desire, I feel like it's important for you to have faith, faith that this can happen. But you said a lot of people say they want these different things, but I would say they're not hungry enough to get it. They're not as faithful. Something happens, along the way and they just quit. So my question is, how has your faith in God, and you being a Christian and believer, help you, having that exposure and that desire to want better for yourself? How does that help you in this journey so far?
Man, that's so good. Such a good question. So I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, right? I'm not a Jehovah's Witness now, but that's how I grew up. So my mother was a Jehovah's Witness, and she still is. But I share that because if anybody knows anything about that religious background, they know that you are in church 8 days a week, 25 hours a day, right? Like I remember growing up, and every single time I came home, I had to read something that was a publication from the Kingdom Hall, basically, right? And I would have to read about God's word. And I remember I used to know every scripture of the Bible, not every scripture, every book of the Bible. I knew it front to back. I knew different scriptures. Like the word has been instilled in me since I was born. But what I found to be very, very interesting is God is not a God of lack in any means, like at all. And so what I started to wonder after a while was, man, like my mother can pray the heavens down, but why are we still living in lack? Like if I know the word so well and my income or my lifestyle is contingent on my relationship with the creator, like, listen, I know him, right? But why isn't my life showing evidence of that? Like, why are we still needing money? Like, why do you still have to work 3 different jobs? Why do we still have to miss certain things? Why do we still have to save up money? Like, I thought he said we are the head and not the tail. I thought he said we are above and not beneath. I thought he said that we were already above. Like, what's going on? And here's what I realized. I realized for a vast majority of people, they believe in God, but they do not necessarily believe him.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is, listen, if you know the scriptures, the true definition of knowing would be in your being it. Like I can listen, I I can claim I know all the plays to become wealthy. Right? Like, I love one of my good friends, he's a financial advisor. And he said one day, he was like, what's crazy about financial advisors is the average income for a financial advisor is $40,000 a year.
Oh.
So wait a minute. So you mean to tell me you got your insurance license, you got your securities licenses, and you're supposed to be handling my wealth, but you're not wealthy? Oh, that means you know it, but you don't really know it. And so what I started to say is, okay, if I'm using these words like faith, like belief, like relationship, right? I believe in relationship over religion. Like, if I'm using these things, then my life needs to show evidence of that. And so I started to study. One of my first mentors, he told me, he said, Damon, I want you to learn anything and everything you can about believing. And so I started to study believing. And then I ran across a pastor by the name of Ivy Hilliard, who talks about belief, and Creflo Dollar, who talks about belief, and T.D. Jakes. And I started to read the word for myself, and I started to learn a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And I started to establish a relationship for myself. And what I learned is two things. Belief and faith are vastly different in how they're cultivated and grown. Okay, I want to say that again. Belief and faith are vastly different in how they're cultivated and grown. Now, they say that faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen, right?
Yeah.
What I find to be very, very interesting is the word also says that the only thing that pleases God is faith. But they also said that faith comes by what?
Hearing.
And hearing by the word of God. So that means in order for me to grow my faith in anything, there's something that I need to be hearing. So watch this. I'm here to tell you that there's nobody lacking in faith. Right? Check it out. Nobody's lacking in faith. The question is, what do you have faith in? Because you can have faith in your current results, but you can have faith for what God promises as well. Like, it takes me just as much energy to have faith that's also fear as it would faith for abundance. Faith for scarcity, lack, and limitation as it would for abundance. Does that make sense? Now, belief.
No, that makes sense.
Belief, on the other hand, belief doesn't come by hearing. No. But belief doesn't come by hearing. What do you think belief comes by?
By seeing.
100%. I love the story that the word gives of Abraham, whose name was Abram, right? And his wife's name was Sarai before it got changed, right? And I thought it's so interesting how it states in there, like I just want you to picture this for 1 second, right? I think the man, wasn't he like 90-something years old?
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not a theologian, so I'm not up here trying to be a pastor or anything, right? Like,
That's
that's not my thing right now. I don't know what God has for me, but it is what it is. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, okay, this guy is 90-something. His wife is 90-something. And God tells him that he's going to be a father of many nations.
Yeah.
First of all, like, I'm a grown man, so I know what it takes, right, to be a father. Let's just put it like that, right? And I'm thinking in my mind, there's no way that they've even done that activity for about 50 or 60 years. Like right? So can you imagine? Abram was probably like, not today.
Viagra.
Right? And so what I thought was interesting is what he did first was helped him instill faith in his word. How did he do that? Because he changed his name. He changed his name to Abraham and her name to Sarah. Why? Because now every time somebody said their name, they were reaffirming the promise that God had already told them. Right?
Yeah.
What did he do next? Okay, now I'm instilling faith, but maybe you don't believe. And I know that he didn't believe yet because the scripture ended up saying something. And I'm going to tell you in a second. So what he did is he took him out to a field, right? And he had him look up at the stars. And he said, I want you to picture, in other words, visualize a child's face on every star. Now, here's what the scripture says. Once he did that, it says, then he believed. So, in other words, both parts are extremely important. And the same system that was used back then to create faith and the same system that was used to create belief, we can use now. But the problem is because we lack in knowledge, because we lack in ignorance. I'm sorry, because there is ignorance, right? We choose not to use it. We choose not to use it. And so all I did was I figured out what's the system behind these things, and I'm going to use it to my favor every single time. So I'm here to tell you, man, it wasn't the insurance industry that got me here. I don't want people to get that wrong. Is that a vehicle to create wealth? Absolutely. And no, it wasn't just six figures we made in this industry. We made millions of dollars in this industry, right? Like it's been good, great, grand. But the truth of the matter is, I know plenty of people that have their insurance licenses. Matter of fact, hundreds of thousands of people are licensed insurance agents, but the average income of most of them is around $60,000 a year. So when people call me and ask me, listen, it wasn't insurance. Listen, I worked 10 times harder on myself than I ever did on my business. And it started with the things that you're asking me about right now.
No, that's really amazing. And it's funny that, I never read the story of Abraham and Sarah, just the way you broke it down, like the fact that God had to change his name, just going back to what you're saying about words, reaffirming, because now Abraham means the father of many. So the fact that, he was calling that night, he was able to believe that. And that leads to ask, you mentioned two things, one about financial advisors, that the average financial advisor makes about $40,000, and two, that the average life insurance person makes about $60,000. So what would you say are the key things that people need to have in order to have the key things people need to have in order to, make the six figures, the seven figures in a life insurance business?
Yeah. Again, another great question, right? And I always probably give the untypical answer. The first thing I would get is a mentor, right? Now, I'm not saying choose me as a mentor. I may not be your guy. It doesn't matter to me. But for me, it was extremely, extremely important for me to find a coach and a mentor. And I'm going to tell you the difference of those real quick. A coach is somebody who specializes in your area you're looking to go into. So if I'm playing basketball, I want to get a basketball coach. I'm not going to get a croquet coach or whatever it's called, right? Like that doesn't make sense. I want to get somebody that's played the game, that understands the game, and that's excelled at a very high level. And watch this, and can articulate in easy to understand language how to help me win. I want somebody that has proven results. Now, a mentor is somebody that may be in your field and that's willing to pour their life's example into you. The only way you can get a mentor is when you identify yourself as worthy for mentorship, not paying for a program. All right? Like, let's just be clear, right? So for me, the first thing I had to do was I had to find an example. I had to find an example of somebody that was successful. In the insurance business, huge shout out to my big bro. I love him to life. Mentor, coach of mine. His name is Troy Miles. And just an incredible man, incredible father, incredible husband, great guy. But he was one of my first mentors. He was one of the first people I saw that was doing what I intended to do. He had the home, the cars, he had the faith, he had the history, he was transparent, he was authentic. And I was like, you know what? I want to do what you do. The second thing I had to do is I had to commit to the process. Now watch this. More importantly, I had to commit to my process because everybody's process looks different. And that process is going to look like many different things. I used to tell people all the time, I think I've always been given this gift to be able to communicate. But the truth of the matter is my talent always got me somewhere where my character did not keep me. So the interesting thing about being an entrepreneur is basically you signing up someone putting a glass mirror in front of you, kind of like Snow White, right? You know how Snow White used to be able to say,
Yeah.
mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest? Entrepreneurship is basically you having that same mirror, you walking up to it and saying, mirror, mirror on the wall, what I desire from my life is, and you listing all the things. And then the mirror goes, perfect. I can give you all of that, but first, I need you to become a better father, to become a better husband, to become a better leader, to become more organized, to be a better communicator, to learn how to grow, to learn how to love people, to learn how not to judge people, to learn that no matter what people do, you're going to love them anyway. You're going to have to learn how to go in and out of different communities that may be unfamiliar to you. You're going to have to learn business ethics. Like there's a bunch of things that you're going to have to do in order to have what you've asked for. But the problem for many people is that's where they quit. They say, whoa, I didn't ask for all that. And so we end up settling for a life that's subpar to what we were created for in the first place. So all I did was I committed to my process. I can't even tell you on this call everything that I personally had to grow through in order to get to where we are.
Wow.
Every single level, it's been heavy, but it's all been worth it.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And one thing I can say, through this interview, you keep going back to like mindset and how mindset relates to, getting a sale. So my question is, in order for a sale to work out, like if you were supposed to sell me life insurance, should the person's mindset be? What's the psychology that plays a role in making sure you get that sale? So what would you say to someone who is in the business of sale, but they're struggling because they don't have that mindset?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I need to be sold on the product, but more importantly, I need to be sold on the person that I'm going to be assisting. And so what I teach in sales is that instead of us focusing so much on the specifics of the product, let's understand who our potential client is. Because if I can understand them, if I can understand their mentality, if I can understand their wants, their desires, their distrust, their needs, their mindset, their background, their current living conditions, if I can intimately see that person and what they're going through, now I can speak their language. See, the reason why I see so many salespeople struggling is because they're speaking their language, but not the language of their client. Right? Because if you learn all the products, I'm in the insurance business, right? Like I don't even know the products that well, but I don't need to, right? Like I'm a top 1% earner in my industry. For what? Like I don't need to know the dividends and no, because my client doesn't care about that. They don't know what you're talking about. And so what ends up happening is you're talking about all the features of your product. You're talking about, hey, this is gonna, it's a whole life policy and it's an index policy and it's a term policy and blah, blah, blah. And you're using all these terms that are going over your client's head when all they really care about is the result. Like I heard somebody say it best, stop selling all the pieces and just sell the result. In other words, don't sell the plane ride, sell the vacation. Because the truth of the matter is, if I told you right now, hey, here's what I need you to do. I'm going to need you to show up at the airport about 2 hours early. And once you arrive there, I want you to make sure that you have all of your bags packed the right way, because if they're not 50 pounds and you're not going to be able to get on, make sure that you have your driver's license pulled out already, because if not, they may make you stand in line again. And typically the line is going to have about 25 to 30 people in front of you. Now, once you get through that line, you're going to have to go through a security checkpoint and you're going to have to take off pretty much all of your clothes. And if for whatever reason you have something in your bag that may be a little questionable, they may completely take away your privacy, right? Like literally. Now, if you get through that part, then you're going to have to go to another waiting area. And in that waiting area, maybe about 45 minutes, you might have to sit next to somebody you don't necessarily like. Hopefully, once you get on the plane, now that you're on the plane, hopefully you're not sitting next to somebody that accidentally farts and they have COVID. That might be nasty, right? But once you actually get on the plane, it's only about a 5.5 to 6 hour ride. Once you get off the plane, Then you're going to go through another security checkpoint, wait for your bags, which could take a while. Matter of fact, there is a slight chance that your bags may be relocated to a completely. Like, if I told you all that, you would not care if the destination was Hawaii. You'd be like, I'm cool. Like, I'm good. Like, I'll skip it. But if I tell you all about what you're going to see and experience in Hawaii, it doesn't matter what you have to go through to get there, because all you're thinking about is Hawaii. So in the sales process, the reason why most people fail is because they're selling everything except for the result. All your client cares about is that. But guess what? You can only do that with certainty and confidence when you commit to your craft. And I see so many sales agents and salespeople not committed to their craft. What they're really in it for is a quick buck. They're really in it because they heard there's money in it. They heard that it's a play, that it's a way to create income. Not, okay, this is in alignment with the purpose that God put on my life. This is in alignment with what I do well. This is something I'm willing to make my name synonymous with. And because that never happens, you can't have the level of certainty that's required to excel in your chosen endeavor. And that's why most people fail as entrepreneurs, because they're curious, but not committed.
Wow.
Interested, but not committed. See, when you're interested in something, you'll do what's convenient to you. But when you're committed to it, you'll do whatever it takes.
Wow. I definitely enjoy this podcast. Definitely feel like I'm in school and I'm learning a lot of different things. And I want to ask, this question, when you did make your first six-figure year or your first single month, how did that feel for you? What was that experience like for you when you saw like this is possible and you did it? How did that feel for you?
It just felt like another day. It just felt like another day. And here's why, man. Like, right now, in this current moment, I've been thinking so much. Like, I love how Ed Milet puts it. He said, you're blissfully dissatisfied. I don't think there's any reason to always live in the future. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm extremely grateful for where I am right now. I'm extremely grateful for what's been provided for my life and what I have right now. My family is healthy. My wife is healthy. My children are healthy. I'm sane. You know what I mean? Like, life is amazing. But the truth of the matter is, I've been so intentional about the life that I've been creating that when it happens, it had already happened in my mind so long ago that it just feels like another day. Like, when I had wrote down in 2014, I wrote down, I am so happy and grateful now that I am earning over $200,000 per year. I wrote that down when I was working at a place called Residence Inn, which is a hotel. I was working there from 9 to 1. And then in the evenings, I would work at Comfy Couch. I got fired from those positions. And then I was working for $9 an hour moving furniture. But this whole time, I carried this little card in my pocket. And that card said, I am so happy and grateful now that I am earning over $200,000 a year. This is in 2000. Matter of fact, that's 2013. So watch this. The word says, as a man believes in his heart, so is he. In other words, you become what you think about most of the time. And the problem for most people's lives is they're basing their future possibilities on their current reality. So if they're seeing right now things aren't working for them, they automatically decide in their mind that it's never going to work. And there's a huge difference between hoping and believing. Some people say, well, I know things are going to get better, but that's like a wish. But when you say it with certainty, I know it's already done. It's absolutely already done. And that's what happened for me. I didn't know these little techniques would work. I thought they were woo-woo. But I didn't know it. Listen, I was so broke, I had no choice but to believe. Like, I was so naive to the fact that I was so broke that, you know what? You got the results, I'm going to listen to you. And so I read the card every day, man. Went from $9 an hour within the first 6 months, over $155,000 in income. Within the first 6 months of me committing to my craft. And so people say, well, what was your presentation? People say, oh, what rebuttals were you using? And I say, I was using belief. I was using belief. And so now that we understand that process, we can help people get farther much faster than it took me. But we still got to get you to a state of believing. Because when I tell people right now, listen, a friend of mine just called me about 3 weeks ago. He was like, listen, Dang, jump on this call real quick. I want you to hear somebody. Got on the call, listened to him. They closed out a challenge. My friend called me. He said, listen, bro, we did $7.1 million. I said, what? He said, we did $7.1 million. I said, like in the past 20 years? He said, no, in a day.
Oh, snap.
I said,
Oh, snap.
and this is what I did. I didn't even say, oh, snap. I start going, let's go. Yeah. Like I start cheering him on. Like, bro, like, here's why. People like, did the money go to your account? Basically, it did. Why? Because in that moment, I knew that it was possible for me. It's like, I'll leave you with this. It's just like Roger Bannister, right? Roger Bannister, if people don't know, he's one of the first people. Matter of fact, he is the first to do a 4-minute mile. And what's crazy is leading up to the point that he had done that, the belief, there's that word again, the belief was that the human body could not get to the speed required to run a 4-minute mile. When he did it, within weeks, there were high school students that were running 4-minute miles.
Wow.
See, again, we're going to bring this back around to exposure. The reason why God has exposed you all to this podcast, the reason why you may have been exposed to my information is because, thank God, at some point in my life, I was exposed. And then I broke everything down and studied and studied and studied and studied and studied. So that way I could share this information with you so you could be exposed to what God has for your life as well.
No, that is definitely amazing. And that leads to my last two questions. You made 6 figures, so how did you go and continue to stay motivated and continue to have the belief, have the exposure, to see that it's possible to do 7 figures. Now I did 6, now it's possible to do 7. What led you to continue growing? Because oftentimes, in entrepreneurship or just in life, people get to a certain point in their life, they get very comfortable. That's like their peak. But what led you to keep on going? Like, this is not enough. I need more. There's more to life than just making $155,000.
Yeah. So I wanted the money really, really bad, right? In the beginning, and I remember before I started making money, right? I remember being so broke, like broke with multiple O's. Like my girlfriend, who's not my wife, we were staying in a 700 square foot apartment, right? And I was driving a 92 Saturn that was like purple, blue, maroon. It had this ceiling. You're probably too young to notice, but back in the day, if like the car was old, your ceiling, like the what is it called? The fabric of the ceiling would start to fall, right?
Wow.
And so what I would have to do is take these push pins, kind of like this push pin right here, and I would like stick them up in the ceiling. But every time we went over a bump, they would like fall out, right? And that car, I was giving my aunt $40 a week to have the car, and that car got repossessed because I didn't have the $40 to give her, right?
Wow.
And I remember, man, I have asthma, right? And I remember I used to call my mother around that time and beg her, because my sisters have asthma as well. I used to beg her, hey, is there any way you can check with the doctors to see if you can get like some samples so that way I won't have an asthma attack, right? Like I remember at one point, she was my girlfriend then, now my wife. I remember at one point we had to go around to a couple of different churches to try to find the money for rent. And I remember one day I needed gas money really, really bad. Like I needed to pick her up from work and take care of a few things. I had no money. And I remember calling a friend of mine that I used to work for, and I was like, hey, bro, can you let me borrow like 20 bucks or so? And he said, no. And what he told me is what changed my life forever. He said, Damon, once you realize that you're focused on the wrong end of the equation, you will never have to worry about money again. He left it at that. And it took me years to figure out what he meant. See, the reason why most people are struggling financially is because they're focused on the wrong end of the equation. I was so focused on how to make money because I didn't understand that money follows value.
Hmm.
And so I heard Miles Monroe say it best. He said, do not seek for employment. Do not seek for an opportunity. Do not seek for money. Seek to become a person of value. See, the only reason I get invited on podcasts and get invited to events to speak and all that stuff isn't because I start making a bunch of money. No, that has nothing to do with it. Because I know a lot of people that are really, really well off that you would never want to talk to. But because I became a person of value. And when I started to understand that, man, and understand that value is determined by three things. What is the need for what I do? What is my ability to do it? And how hard is it to replace me? And the more I increase in those three categories by one thing, the true, authentic love for people. Because when you love people, you want to automatically become the greatest version of yourself so you can do better for them, so that you impact their lives in a positive way, so that when they see you, they see God. When they hear you, they hear God. Does this make sense?
No, this definitely makes a lot of sense. And I want to ask, kind of just from this interview and just speaking for you, and just throughout the different interaction, I can tell you spend a lot of time investing in yourself. It's a lot of time, growing yourself. So I want to ask, how do you continue to invest in yourself? What are things that you like? I'm sure you're at a very comfortable state in your life. You don't need to necessarily be on this podcast. You're good, but what allows you to continue to invest in yourself, continue to want to there's something better. I have to better myself, not about the money, but just me as a human being.
Yeah, curiosity, man. That's a simple answer. For me, it's curiosity. And I think it's so funny how, as kids, we're programmed to be conformed to this world. Literally, we're programmed to do what the world needs us to do to fit their whatever it is. Their box, right? I remember when I was young, there used to be a saying. It said, "Oh, curiosity killed the cat."
Yeah.
Right? You remember hearing that?
Yeah.
Curiosity. No, the truth of the matter is, curiosity made the cat rich. Because the more curious I am, the more childlike I am, the more I come to a better level of awareness of what I'm not. Listen, man, when you get to a certain level, and I'm not here talking listen, no, I still have things to this day that I'm working on, right? When you start making money, you realize that there's three levels to it. First, you got to learn how to make money. And if you've been poor your whole life, basically, like I was, right? First, learning how to make it is going to be a tough thing. The second part is managing it. Have you ever heard of something called hood rich? Okay? If you ain't never had money before, trust me, it's going to take you a few years to get out of that. Everybody keep your head straight. Don't look to your left or your right. You're going to tell everybody what's going on in your house, okay? All right, so, and then once you're past that, you got to learn how to make that thing grow. Because one of the worst things you can do for money is work.
Oh.
Right? So the reason why I stay in a place of humility is because I recognize there are still things for me to learn. This past 9 months, just being completely transparent, really the past 12 months have been the most challenging in my entire life. By far. By far. And there's one thing I realized. Over the years, I've become very efficient at the process of personal self-development. What does that mean? That means all the books, all the audios, all the mentorships, all the masterminds, paying for coaching, right? Finding a mentor. Like I did all those things that the world tells you you must do to be successful. And then I realized in one of my darkest moments, I said, oh my God, the reason I'm here is I've been looking for partnerships, for strategies, for systems, for books on how to build wealth. But not one time did I consult with the ultimate CEO. Not one time did I ask the opinion of. Not one time, like I'm not saying I wasn't praying. Yeah, hey, listen, when I eat a meal, pray, right? Like it was crazy because it had become routine. It had become religion, but not relationship anymore. Like I can only imagine that if someone treated their wife that way, like how long would you be married? Like if you had everything on a set schedule, hey, 4:59, 5 o'clock, love you, bye. Right? Like 6:59, 7 o'clock. How was your day? Great, mine too. See you later. Like that's how my relationship had become with God. And I said, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Because this whole time I'm trying to control. I'm trying to control how successful my team becomes. I'm trying to control how successful my partnerships are, right? Like I'm trying to control this whole thing when in all actuality, the worst thing I could do is have control. The worst thing I could do is think I have control. And so what I decided to do, man, is I decided to surrender. I said, you know what? Less of me, more of you, period. Before I talk to anybody, I'm going to talk to you. Before I look at a business partnership, I'm going to talk to you. Before I get on this road, I'm going to talk to you. I went on a 3-day fast at the beginning of June. And I honestly thought, bro, I thought like, okay, I'm going to do this 3-day fast. And like immediately after that, everything's going to be better. And nah, man, like the process of growth is real. And so for many of us, again, I know everybody wants to create money. I get it. Like that's all the internet has come to at this point. That's all social media. Like I can't go down my timeline without somebody selling something. But at the end of the day, you will never be fulfilled or happy until you know who you truly are. And watch this. The only way for you to know who you truly are is when you know whose you are. And if you don't have an authentic relationship in that, it'll never work. Well, Damon, I am making money, but it ain't working for you.
Wow. That's really great. That I want to definitely say, thank you for your time. Thank you for this opportunity. My last question, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh my goodness, that's easy, man. I'm gonna be doing this. I'll be doing this at just at whatever level God wants me to be at. Like this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. Like I know what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. Period. Like I'm going to inspire people. I'm gonna motivate people. I'm gonna transform people, and I'm gonna do it for Him. Period. Like that. I don't think there's any other better thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like anybody listening to this podcast up to this point can tell that I love what I do. And I have the opportunity to now do this every single day because I made a decision to. Like every single one of you has a gift, a talent, a trait, and an ability that was given to you by God. Watch this. It says that He knew who you were before you were in your mother's womb. It says that He knows the hairs on your head. And I know for a fact that He only creates to solve, which means there's something going on in the world right now that He knew would be going on that you were created to solve. You have a purpose. The word purpose means original intent. But see, the reason why some of us will never go back to the essence of who we are and our real gifts is because we think either A, we're not worthy of it, or B, that there's no money in it. But I promise, when you start operating like your authentic self, you'll never have to worry about money again because you won't be working for money. You'll be working for fulfillment. You want real freedom? You want real freedom? Freedom is never having to work for money again. Well, damn, no. You think I'm working right now? Like, does this look like work to you?
Nah.
100%. So I'll be doing this. Hey, and I'm gonna know you like 5-10 years. I'm gonna know you like. Hopefully, my beard is grown in by then. You know, because hey, I'm 38, but your boy's beard is still a little patchy. Like, hey, if y'all selling beard oil and y'all can get me together, send me a DM.
Not a problem. No, but I want to definitely say thank you very much, Mr. Dillard. For those who are listening, I hope you guys don't see as another entrepreneur, another business owner, another guest on the Wealth and Guys podcast who just here to motivate you, tell you about their story, how they use faith. But I hope this allows you to, understand that you need to apply this information. It's not good enough to just know the information. You have to go about applying it. So if you guys don't know, I have a free study guide which can show you how you can get started in the stock market completely for free, and you can get it at wealthandchristbrand.com. And you're looking for a group of Christians who are looking and building towards financial freedom, you can join the Pray and Invest group. And thank you again, Mr. Dillard.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge you real quick, man. Like, the work you're doing in the world right now is significant, my friend. And honestly, I wish I had platforms like this back when I started. Like, because what you're sharing is truth. You're sharing it from a very authentic place. I know you're bringing on nothing but quality people. So honestly, I'm very, very humbled that you were asked me to be on, and I'm very honored that I was able to share this with you today, man. So thank you again.
No problem. And one last question: where can people stay in touch with you and learn more about your program that you have?
Absolutely. So you can go to Instagram, Damon P. Dillard on Instagram. It's DamonPDillard on Instagram. You can also go to Facebook, Damon Dillard on there. Website, ElevatedIncomeAcademy.com. If you are a life insurance agent, or if you are a consultant, coach, or you have an idea that you're looking to create income from, reach out to me. We'll see what we can do to get you some help.
No problem. Thank you.